range of art across the Asia-Pacific region beggars belief. From a taxidermied elk coated in acrylic bubbles, the work of Koainawa from Japan, to this installation by Indian artist Thakral Tagra. It's about migration, the parents left behind and the trophy son who has made it overseas. Or perhaps the mushroom cloud of pots and pans called Line of Control by major international artist Subodh Gupta from India. Then the art created only for the time it will exist. Buddhist texts painted on these mushrooms, which will wilt and decay, the art gone. Mushroom mantra is the concept of Cha Wei Sai from Taiwan. The Asia-Pacific Triennial, or APT, is now a major international event, a fact acknowledged by the Premier of Queensland.
The APT has become one of the best attended contemporary art shows in the world.
Many had come to see the work of the artists from the Mansudae Art Studio in North Korea. In fact, the Queensland Gallery of Modern Art thought it good enough and unusual enough to buy this work for their permanent collection.
And the mosaic by Kim Hung-il and Kang Young-sam from North Korea's Mansudae Art Studio will also become part of the collection. The work in the North Korean part of the APT6 is nothing short of remarkable, and it is the first time that we've seen this work on display anywhere in the world. So it's the beginning of opening up the art of these artists to Western eyes and to art lovers from around the globe.
This event should have been the beginning of an art dialogue with North Korea. Unfortunately, the Australian government, not the North Korean government, quashed it. These North Korean artists were invited by the gallery to see their work on public exhibition. They had their visas, which were suddenly cancelled only weeks before the exhibition opened. Nicholas Bonner worked with the artists preparing for this event.
This is what is so sad. I mean, we've been working on this project now for 5 years, and for 3 years getting to know these artists very well, and they've been very excited about being able to come here. And most people would say, of course, the censorship would have been from the DPRK side, but in fact, Australia has refused their visas, and I think it's a great shame, and it's a great pity.
The reason given by the Australian government says it was, quote, contrary to Australia's foreign policy interests. However, the paintings are here, but the artists who painted them are barred. And Australia does have diplomatic relations with North Korea.
I think that's a massive shame that one, for the artists themselves, they can't see what's going on and see their work in situ, and also that the Australian people and the people of the world here cannot actually speak to North Koreans and hear their comment. It's a bit like, reminds me of that sort of advert, sort of children can be seen and not heard. It's like we're happy to show North Korean artwork, but please don't speak to the artists.
The work from North Korea is mainly in the style known as Socialist realism, whether it be the liner cuts, the watercolour portraits, or the massive oil painting.
Socialist realism has a very important part in delivering a political message, and a lot of the art is allegorical, telling the story of the great workers who've done so well, either at this factory or what have you.
The North Korean art studios are like universities, where a very academic style of art is taught, and artists can progress in levels to the most revered level of people's artist.
You start off as a basic artist. You'll study it, if you're good, at the Pyongyang University of Fine Art, and then you get selected after 7 years to join one of the studios if you're good. If you're not so good, you may get a sort of job out in the hinterland. And if you get to this sort of good level and you get accepted by a studio, you then sort of work becoming a merited artist. Then you work towards, in your 50s, becoming a people's artist.
Aside from the North Korean art, this work was also attracting attention, called the Mekong Project, the work of 8 artists in the wider Mekong area of Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand and Burma.
There's sort of a number of themes that really come out of the work. We were sort of very interested in particular artist practices and what they said about everyday life in where they live. And so there's many things that sort of connect the works in terms of tradition and the sort of economic development and the impacts that's had on society, growing urbanisation, sort of political unrest and, some of the tragic histories that have happened in the region. So they all sort of flow through the different works in the show.
Coordinating the works in the 8 countries with their differing political systems was delicate business. but the artists were keen to cooperate.
I'm very aware of the political situations, particularly with Myanmar. But the artists have their own way of dealing and moving on, and in this, particularly poignant in this work, to be able to create imaginary spaces and proving that the idea doesn't stop at regulations. You can still move forward. On one hand, it can be passing on traditions that seem to be fading with modernity, such as Svai Ken's work, is sort of a guide, a manual for living for the young generation. Others deal with contemporary events, such as Manit's work behind me, dealing with Waiting for the King, the precarious situation about the aging monarchy, and catastrophes that can happen, such as in the Cambodian work behind me about the fires.
From Vietnam, Bui Kang Khan's work featured porcelain vases. Sophip Pitch from Cambodia worked with traditional materials. For something completely different, Shinji Omaki produced this tactile work based on the ocean.
First, I created the sea. Then I take the water parts away, leaving only the light.
Threads of light that you can get lost in. Or this peasant hut, reconstructed by Chen Kui Lin, who saved it from the Three Gorges Dam area. And finally, this installation by Zhu Weibing and Ji Wenyu, 400 figures examining the increasingly consumerist society of modern China and the fact that material wealth doesn't equate to happiness.